Hey, what's up, guys? I want to talk to you today about Pop's Procut. I have not yet tested this steel, but I absolutely will do so. So, to introduce you or to get us started, to set some groundwork here, I want to talk about why Pop's Procut may be a good deal, what is so interesting about the steel, why there should be any hype in the first place, and what I'm going to do. There's a lot of things that I think are exciting about Pop's Pro Cut. I don't know that they're all being pushed uh, with the same amount of enthusiasm that I may push some of these things. But let's talk about that really quick. What are these attributes that we have today? Where did they come from? And just so you know, um, I'm not a metallurgist. So I'm going to talk about some of these things in a little bit somewhat broad and generic way. And if you want the meat and potatoes, you're going to go check out Laren Thomas at Knife Steel Nerds. He is the guy who designed the steels and is doing some of the professional testing of these steels. He is a metallurgist. And you're going to find him at Knife Steel Nerds, which is where I got these background thingy majiggers, whatever. And so there's a few reasons why this deal is exciting. For one, it's about time that someone gave the appropriate level of attention to high carbon, low alloy steels. I think it's been in the back of a lot of people's minds for a long time. I wish we could have a upgraded 5160 or 8670 or 15N20 or you name it. And I think that's what we have here today. So we have a nickel steel and we have some additions to this nickel steel that have some really exciting attributes, the most basic of which is the potential for better edge retention. Other things that are excited about this steel is flexibility of heat treat for guys who are heat treating in forges. You know, if you Laren's done some articles in the past about different steels, high carbon steels, and heat treating them and simply using the color of the steel or when the steel goes non-magnetic. And he showed how quickly, so you have the steel in a forge, you're heating it up, how quickly it becomes non-magnetic before you oil quench the steel or quench, however it is, water quench or air quench or whatever it is that you're doing. How quickly that steel can be ruined if you continue to heat the steel for just another second or more. You can completely ruin the potential attributes of the steel that you are after. And so ProCut has this like 400-degree window for for getting a good heat treat, which I think should make it much more accessible to a lot of hobbyists and knife makers who aren't using a kiln. Um, and ultimately, when it came to hobbyists, especially when I was getting into this was the issue that you could run into. We talked about heat treat all the time because kilns weren't as accessible, and people didn't want to send their knives off to heat treat. They would heat treat on their own. But if you didn't know the maker, uh, they might advertise their heat treat all day, but a lot of times you ran into brittle and ruined steels. And actually, when I grew up as a knife nerd, having, especially stainless steels, having a mainstream manufacturer production knife come in dull and with a ruined heat treat, so it would be very brittle, was not an uncommon thing. So I think it is exciting to have a steel that is essentially going to be much more difficult to screw up. Also, what we have seen, we're getting out of this era more now, I think, but with higher alloy steels and a lot of steels that were pushing the boundaries and stuff, keeping your knives straight and having a proper heat treat required higher heats and a lot more precision. And it's taken the industry, when it comes to hobbyists, a long time to get this information dialed in. And Laren Thomas has done a fantastic job in helping with really educating our makers and bringing the industry up as a whole. But in the past, I had said things like, well, first off, any steel that is properly heat treated has the potential to vastly outperform any steel where the heat treat is ruined. So if we're testing edge retention between 1095 high carbon steel and Rex 121, and the Rex 121 has been ruined, and the first time you go to touch it to what you're cutting, you get micro fracturing, micro chipping, or complete breakage, 1095 wins in that fantasy comparison. Okay. So in the past, I felt more safe, especially when buying from a new maker, in buying a steel where I knew the heat treat was easy. Now we have Procut, where it would appear that the heat treat is going to be easier than any other steel ever before. And I see that as an absolute win, especially if we get the steel to be available in a very widespread, I mean, constant availability is the goal here. Just as a new steel, and again, I'm just talking about potentials and stuff like that. You know, with previous steels, I think with MagnaCut, I think when MagnaCut first rolled out, the annealing done from the manufacturer wasn't dialed in. And so we had a lot more problems with warpage than what we have now. And there are growth pains with the steel. So Procut is not yet proven industry-wide to have these beneficial traits that we're going to be talking about today. But we're doing the best we can with what we've got. I need to get through this a little quicker because I haven't even talked about why I'm excited about it or what I'm going to do about it. So we've got two heat treats here, and it may be a little bit hard on this chart to see, and I'm sorry I'm doing everything backwards here. We've got one Pops Procut heat treat here at this gray line, and you're going to see this gray line here go down in toughness as we go up in hardness. And this is our edge holding heat treat. And we have a separate heat treat up here, way up here. And again, this gray line is coming down as we go up in hardness. And that is our toughness line. Now, something that I've explained to people in the past that can be hard to understand is that if you have two knives, hardness does not directly relate to edge holding. And what I mean by that is if we have 15 and 20 up here at like 65 HRC, just in imagination land here, there would be no reason to do that. But if you did, that would not mean that it would hold an edge better than really any other steel, even at 63 or even at 61. Even S35VN, a very middle of the road steel, is going to hold an edge better at much lower hardnesses than 15N20 would, way up at that hardness. And that has to do with the composition of the steel. It's not just about hardness. We have carbide suspended in these steels that give us wear resistance, and a steel of very low wear resistance is going to still have relatively low edge holding even at high hardness. So with that being said, harder does not directly equate to better. Softer does not directly equate to better. We need appropriate for the task and for the geometry of the knife in question. So what's cool about this, we've got these two different heat treats here. And so for me personally, let's say that I have my own knife brand, Exodus Knife and Tool, and I'm running 3 different models at different at different sizes. Our Adventure Craft, all right, little tiny blade. The Jackalope is somewhat larger. And then the Mutant is, again, somewhat larger and potentially fulfilling a somewhat more combative role, a somewhat more survival-oriented role, while still being biased towards lightweight and maximum efficiency for size. So I could do the tiny Adventure Craft and Jackalope, which are unlikely to see high levels of stress and strain due to their size. Forces put onto a blade that could relate in breakage are exponentially higher as the size of the knife increases. So the toughness needed in smaller knives is exponentially lower. Now, add that to the fact that the way that people use small knives as a whole it involves exponentially lower levels of stress, and we can go with much lower toughness and much higher edge holding in these small knives. Now, I'm a little bit different in that market category, as being a bushcrafter or an adventurer myself, batoning my knives very regularly. I want to have a little more toughness, but what we could do is I could order sheets of steel, one steel, Procut, and my Adventure Craft and Jackalope, we could do this heat treat here, this bottom gray line, doggone it, where we focus more on edge holding and less on toughness. And I could run this at 62 to 63 HRC, and I'd be a little bit weaker, I think, than where I run my S35 VN currently. We're at 59 to 60 Rockwell. I might even choose to run this more at 61 to 62 to get where I want it to be. But I would have more edge holding, ideally, than A2 by a good margin. Right now, I'm running A2 at 60 to 61. So if I run Pops Procut at 60 to 61 at 1550 degrees with Laren Thomas's heat treat protocol, I should get significantly more edge retention than I'm currently getting with my A2, likely with probably a little less toughness than A2 using this heat treat at the same hardness, likely. Whereas with the Mutant, with the same steel, the same sheet of steel here, I can heat treat Pops Procut 60 to 61, but heat her up to 1625. And I would have less edge holding, but considerably more toughness, up to the steels that I'm currently testing for these uses, to include 15N20, 8670, and I'm also testing Z-Tough from Zap, which is kind of a market equivalent to Crucible's coin and die #1 steel, insane toughness steels, okay? Being able to use one sheet of steel and order one type of steel logistically could simplify a lot of these processes for me. And when you're looking at economies of scale, there can be huge benefits to that. So my Adventure Craft and Jackalope could be Pops Procut E or EH or ER for edge retention. And then my Mutant could be, excuse me, Pops Procut T for toughness. And a lot of companies hide their steels behind made-up nomenclatures or names when it comes to marketing toughness or whatever else. You know, I wouldn't be doing that. This would be very upfront. It would be Pops Procut, and then the letter behind it would designate which type of heat treat we used on it. Because as you should be able to see here, Dang it, I suck at this. At 61, man, at 61, okay, right there. Pops Procut could have very different toughness and edge holding results based on which heat treat was used. Gosh, excuse me. All right. So I am already in the process of testing 15 and 20, 8670, and Z-Tough from Zap Industries with Ross at Dry Creek Forge. We're making 4 of the exact same knives. And we are going to do our own testing. This will not be testing that would compare with what Lair and Thomas would do. We've got a lot more variables that will not be controlled, but I'm looking for generalized attributes, and I believe that I can do that with this testing for my own knowledge and to ensure what I am giving to my customers. I can't tell you how many times a manufacturer or maker has said that they did their due diligence when it came to choosing a steel for their knife, and they're acting like they had a lot of testing behind it, but they're 1095 or they're D2, and the reality is their manufacturer used 1095 or D2, which is fine, but they're going to act like they selected it after a bunch of testing when they didn't. So I want to make sure I do that. Now, I'm also going to be doing some blind testing, actually with multiple makers currently on Pops Procut with knives where a series of knives where I will not know what steels they are. I'll be testing them blindly. Again, a lot of variables here. And again, this doesn't compare to what Lair and Thomas has done or would do. However, I can't do what Lair and Thomas would do. And if you don't know Lair and Thomas, or I don't know, it's going to be an additional data point at best. Okay, so now there's a few things about this Pops Procut rollout that I don't love. So bear with me here as I change my background. So this is the chart that we were given for the thumbnail for the steel. And there are some people who have been testing this steel and talking about how it has the best toughness and edge retention. And I think the term that we should use there is an excellent balance of toughness or edge retention. We do have some edge retention testing, I believe, for the steel, but I believe we only have edge retention testing for the edge holding heat treatment of the steel. I have not yet myself seen edge retention results for our toughness heat treat. And so something that I don't like here is we have this chart where toughness is on this side, edge retention is on this side. These are Catra cut results, these numbers that you see along here. And we have a few steels here, 8670 and 80 CRV2, which I've used a lot and enjoy, 5200, which is one of my favorite steels, honestly. Wolfram Special Super Blue, 1095, Apex Ultra. We have a single dot for all of these steels. And we have a single dot for Pops Procut. And you look at this and you're like, the toughness shown here at nearly 45 foot-pounds is higher than 8670 or 80 CRV2. So it's a tougher steel than those. And the edge retention is higher than 52-100 or Wolfram Special or Blue Super. So the edge retention is higher than those steels. And I don't love this. I feel like it's drastically oversimplified because we have a single dot again for Procut, but we have two designed heat treats for Procut to achieve two separate ends. And I believe we should have, in that case, two dots for Procut. The other thing that I wasn't certain on is why is the toughness listed as higher than 8670? 8670 down at like 40. And so I don't believe this was done from Laren. I don't believe that this was done with dishonest intent. I believe it was done with dishonest intent from some previous reviewers. Or maybe they were just saying that they tested it and they were just repeating what they heard. You know, we have, so if you look here, again, 8670 listed at about 39 foot-pounds and Pops Procut at 43-ish. You can see here that we have our Alpha Knife Supply 8670 and our 15 and 20 up around the 50 foot-pounds rating. And this is 60 to 61 HRC for 15 and 20, and really topping out at about 60 to 61 for the Alpha Knife Supply 8670. And then the Pops Procut, there's been a lot of articles on Knife Steel Nerds about that underperforming with toughness, the Alpha Knife Supply, but allegedly with better edge retention. I don't know. But we've got these listed up here at 50 foot-pounds. So why are we listing 8670 at 39? I believe the answer to that question would be that Laren probably believes that this point at 39 for Alpha Knife Supplies 8670 is the ideal heat treat for this steel for a balance of toughness and edge holding. But again, if we are looking at Pops Procut, okay, and we are going to select what we believe, even if it was me, I'm saying this about Laren, but let's just say if this was me, if I believed that all of these dots were true and correct for these steels' ideal balance of attributes at their ideal hardnesses, I would still want to see two dots over here for Procut. And I don't believe have seen the edge retention results for the tougher of the two heat treats. Why? Why are we advertising an and that should be an or? I don't love this. But of course, you can find there, and again, the reason I don't think that this is malicious on Laren Thomas's behalf is because we have the two heat treats, separate heat treats listed here, all right, for hardness and for toughness. This is explained, and we do have this chart that we were on for so long in the beginning that shows these steels and their performance across a spectrum of, across the spectrum of their hardnesses. I guess I would have liked to have seen a little bit more in that in the thumbnail, and but when you're Laren Thomas and your level of understanding is way up here and you're trying to educate morons like me, you might have to dumb all of this down to a certain level for people to understand what you're trying to see here. I do want to see a chart like this for edge holding with both of the heat treats listed. And again, I don't think I've seen that yet. I do believe I've seen the edge holding chart, which sadly I forgot to download here on the larger edge holding chart. But I only remember seeing one thing on there. But regardless, if our toughness curves are different enough for us to advertise these two different heat treats, then I would assume that our edge holding would be as well in similar fashion. And again, maybe this is just me being a pedantic retard, but I want to see more clarity when, even if we are hyper simplifying like this. So, what's it mean? And I want to say too, like a lot of people expected me to hate Procut out of the gate because of some of the people that have been associated with the steel in the past, and some of the things that they said about that. I'm a knife nerd. I love nickel steels. This is exciting crap, no matter what. And so what do I want to see from this steel? Well, first off, I want to see all of its advertised attributes being true and accurate. Of course, I don't want to see issues with the steel or to for people to start seeing that it underperforms. Why? Because I'm working for big steel and I want them. No, because if what they're advertising is true, it's going to be such a good thing for the market, for the maker, for the people. So I'm not saying I hope that it is successful for Pops or for Laren Thomas or for the industry. If what they're advertising is true, it will be good for the industry. If the other thing that I hope, the other if is if we get the availability that we need, and Lord willing, if it is this good and it becomes as popular as it probably should, if it is this good, as they start selling more of it, hopefully we'll see the price come down on the steel itself. Not that it's astronomically high now, but let's have a good supply of the steel, good availability. As far as I understand it right now, I think max thickness is 3/16. That makes sense on the first drop of a steel because the industry standard is going to be a lot of knives that are 3/16 of an inch thick or thinner. Hopefully, if it becomes popular, it becomes more affordable, and then we see 1/4 inch. And then, you know, I'm a weirdo. I would love to see 3/8 of an inch. If everything else is as advertised. What we don't need is we don't need a new magic steel that doesn't actually do anything all that new. It's just a slight tip of the balance scales on performance, and it's released and everybody gets excited and then it disappears. Or it is, even if it doesn't disappear, it's around, but it is always hard to get. It'll do nothing for the industry or for the maker if I need 1/8 inch thick Procut and I need a sheet of it or even a piece of it. And every time I look, it's out of stock. And every time it comes into stock, it sells out like that because a bunch of, let's just say because it's so popular. You don't even need to be sassy about that. All right. So those are my goal, my hopes, my expectations. I hope that they've been transparent for this whole rollout. You know, I don't love this, but hopefully this goes away with future data and marketing, and that's all clarified and things are as transparent as can be. And I'm really, really excited to test this steel. Now, If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, do all those normal things that people do. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I almost always have active discussions in the comment section below. I'm very active in the comment section. If you want to support the channel, I've got affiliate links and all of that normal kind of stuff in the description box below. But the best way to support the channel is through sales at my website, Exodus Knife or Tool, or I designed a rifle sling while in Afghanistan, and I make those myself at beachandtactical.com. I don't know if that website's going to exist forever, though, because it's becoming a pain in my butt, and I might just do sales of slings retail only and through email. So depending on when you watch that video, that might disappear. Anyways, yeah, I'm excited to talk to you guys about this. I'm excited for the industry. I'm excited to see this roll out as prices on super steels balloon in the near future due to industry struggles and tariffs and whatever else. This might be an awesome steel that we can all use and enjoy. The fact that we have these two different performance capabilities within the same steel could mean that the steel could be fairly dominant and become fairly universal across a range of industries. You guys know that I am a adventurer that does a lot of bushcraft stuff, a bit of survival stuff. And so my industry is very, very different than the EDC industry, which is fairly different than the kitchen knife industry and the pocket knife industry, which pocket knife and EDC, I guess I'd separate. Whatever. They're all different industries. But that's why you have so many steels. You're traditionally your fixed EDC guys with a high carbon steel probably would have been looking at something like this Super Blue or Wolfram Special or the 26C3 or whatever. Maybe they were more interested in that. Not in practical use, in my experience. Those steels are fairly uncommon. I see them used rarely. Crew Forge V, I don't even know if that's hardly even a thing anymore. I usually see 52100, I would guess, as a high carbon steel in an EDC-ish EDC style knife or ADC RV2. But regardless, again, we've got all these different steels, and then the survival guys who are doing 50 thou behind the edge on a big beast hacker we're using 52100, ADC RV2, 8670, or of course the 1080, 1090 series steels. Maybe this Procut is going to be a steel that will be versatile enough to be used across the industry, and maybe that would be the thing that pushes demand for the steel to the point where it becomes very affordable and very obtainable to everybody in the industry, as opposed to each sale being micro-divided across a bunch of different steels and availability always being a bit of a struggle for almost anything. I've yammered enough. Y'all have a blessed day. Let me know what you think in the comments section below, and I will talk to you there. See you. Did it not work?